What's up, everyone? My name's Anita. If you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe. So this week we're talking about social media, specifically Instagram. So maybe you've wondered what's it like to be an Instagram influencer? Is it really as fun and as fabulous as it looks? And how hard is it, right? It seems like it's probably not that hard just to take photos of yourself all day. Well, this week I sat down and talked to my friend Tika, who has successfully grown her personal brand and page while working as a full-time CPA. Tika shared with me the realities of what it's like to shoot your own content. She's a self-taught photographer and is mastering the art of shooting with her tripod to create amazing self-portraits. So if you're interested in hearing what Tika had to say and her tips and advice, keep watching.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your workday. I know it's a weekday to talk to me. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you interviewing me and letting me share my experiences.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know you, you have a blog and an Instagram, and I know you started your blog before the Instagram, so just like walk me through kind of your process and when you started it.
So I started my blog in 2016. It was actually my husband that inspired that to happen. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it yet, but I loved traveling. So it kind of started off as like a travel blog. And then he proposed to me shortly after. And then my distractions were all related to wedding planning. So once the wedding was over, I felt like I didn't really have like something to really focus on. And that's when I realized like I started this blog. Let me get back into it. And then I started noticing that Instagram was starting to become more popular, kind of as like a marketing platform to share your blog and like what you're writing about and whatnot. So then I joined this blogging group in late 2017. And I met all these girls and kind of learned just like the basics of just the key elements of being part of Instagram. And then once I kind of understood just like you need to be consistent and you need to make sure your quality of your photos are a certain way, it like became almost like another job for me, because right now I'm a CPA, I'm an accountant, and I went kind of the more traditional route in my career. And I realized that as much as I'm grateful for having a full-time job and being able to support like my lifestyle, it wasn't enough for me. So that's kind of how I realized that I wanted to have a more creative or have a creative outlet. So yeah, I just kind of took it from there. I've been doing Instagramming for 3 years now, and I'm not gonna lie, I realized that I've focused more of my effort on Instagram, but now I'm trying to be more like be part of like other channels. Like I just started a YouTube channel. I'm trying to get back into being more consistent on my blog. And on top of it, I still make sure that I'm creating content for Instagram. So it's kind of like a whole circle.
You know, tell me a little bit about sort of your brand and your voice, and what your page is about, and also how kind of the journey it took you on to find it. Because I don't know, did you know right from the beginning exactly? Yeah, so tell me about that, because that's also something I'm working to figure out.
So my Instagram is at Tika. I started it in 2017 with the mindset of sharing like my travel experiences, because I think in 2017 or 2018, we went to like 5 different countries, and it was just, there were so many like great opportunities to share those travel experiences. And as time went on, like I realized that I loved fashion, I loved colors, and that was kind of my journey, figuring out how to incorporate all of that. So that was my journey. And then in the last, like, actually when the pandemic started, where you kind of had to get creative at home, that's when I realized that I really love like South Asian colors and clothing and the culture. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like I was very anti-Indian when I was growing up. Like I wish I was any other race that had like yummier food and all of these things. And it wasn't until like actually the wedding where I realized like, wow, our culture is so beautiful. There's so many things that I just never appreciated and took for granted. So during the pandemic, that's kind of when I started really like bringing in like my bold fashion and taking things that I would have never thought I would have worn maybe even like 4 or 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago, like taking those outfits and just creating it into something that I felt was my personality. So like a lot of the times I'll take like just a dress and I'll wear it over maybe like an Indian skirt. That's kind of what my focus has become in the last, I would say, few months, where I really want to bring out like my fashion and my boldness and inspire other women who may feel shy to wear the things that make them happy. Because I remember I'd always be so concerned about what other people felt like, oh, that looks weird, or that doesn't go, or just always so swayed by people's opinions. And I realized like everyone is going to have an opinion, whether it's good or bad, and you can't please everyone. So I want my page to be a place where people can be inspired to be confident in the clothes that they want to wear. So that's like my brand in a nutshell.
You are somebody that like, I think you do a great job because you shoot everything on your own, you and your tripod, your camera, you self-taught. You're not a, professional. You're not one of these Instagram girls that has her husband or boyfriend follow her around taking pictures. So I think that's awesome. Tell me a little bit about how you learned and tips for people that kind of want to be a one-woman show. Like, what would your advice be?
I'm not going to lie, I didn't start using the tripod until actually last December. So I've only been using my tripod for 10 or 11 months, 10 months. But before that, I was starting to get really frustrated, and I felt like the balance of having the time with your friends and family and then shooting content was just starting to like impact each other, where I started feeling like, oh, I'm only hanging out with you because I want you to take a picture of me. And then when plans got canceled, I'd be so upset. I'm like, that's not right. Like, people have lives, their lives aren't focused on this. So that's kind of what triggered me to be like, okay, I need to become more independent and figure it out. So I ended up, there were a couple of bloggers actually that would do tripod shots randomly, but to your point, they had like their boyfriends or friends constantly shooting, but they were actually the ones that inspired me because they would share it on their stories about this capability. I didn't even realize that was a thing, honestly. Yeah. So that's another great thing about social media, learning about what is out there, things that you may have not realized. So I ended up getting a tripod on Amazon. It was only like $45 or $50. And to be honest with you, I do want to upgrade it because the more familiar and comfortable you do become with it, I do suggest like upgrading and investing in your equipment when you feel it's right, of course. So I've been using this tripod. I was using my Nikon D3400, which is a basic entry-level camera, and it was perfect. And then I didn't really need to do too many YouTube videos. If you're using a pretty wide angle lens with a variable f-stop, it's easy to focus. So all you do is just set up your self timer and take it to wherever you want and set the timer up and you're good to go. Things that I struggled with in the beginning was when I was shooting alone in public spaces, I could feel people's eyes on me, like judging me or being like, what the heck is this girl doing? And that took practice. I still feel awkward, I'm not gonna lie, but the trick is do not make eye contact. And I mean, I normally do find places that are a little bit more secluded. I maybe start off going in like by yourself, like in secluded areas, and get comfortable with at least the process. And then once you're more comfortable with being around people, then you know exactly what you need to do. You know your pose, you know what you want, and then you take your pictures and you're out of there within 5-10 minutes. That's basically what I do now. I'm pretty quick.
And I'm sure it's like satisfying being able to, because like there's ideas that I've had and then I've even been like, well, wait, can I do this? Because who's gonna hold that? I don't have, like you start going down a list of all the reasons why you can't do it. And I think like something that I've realized is you just have to try. Like if it's, so what if it doesn't work out, like, but like, if you don't attempt something, you're never gonna know. And I think, with social media and with it, like Instagram or YouTube, when you want to film things and you want to create these moments or you want to go out and capture something, like not everyone has a film crew following them around. Not everyone's gonna
it would be so nice.
Yeah, like that's not how it like I wish I had a glam squad that got me ready every morning, but that's not the reality. And so trying to be able to do these things on your own, I think is so awesome. And like that's one reason why I thought like talking to you was a good idea, because like all, if you go through your Instagram, like you have so many awesome, like you find all these really creative, cool locations. And I'm like, where is that? I didn't know that existed. And you dress it up and you do it all yourself. So in the last couple of years, since you've kind of become a content creator, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned?
When I first started, I was very consistent, right? But I was taking most of my pictures on like my iPhone or heavily editing them. And then my quality of my images would slowly start to like be impacted by it, like getting grainier. And I realized like, as even now, like the feedback that I get, like people talk about my aesthetic, but I realize like I don't need to like, you don't need to like edit to make a photo beautiful. Like sometimes like being simple or just enhancing a little bit can be what the people want to, what your followers or your friends or whoever that you're creating for wants to see. In fact, there's content that I've put on here where I spend so much time on it and then I post and no one seems to like be interested in it. And then I'll post something that I used with my iPhone, or even I don't really post with my iPhone, but when I do, like it's rare. Those are the ones that like people love. So like the first lesson I would say is not just focusing on like, you need the best quality equipment, you need to have the best editing tools. While those are things that I say you invest in over time, it's not the things that you need like from the get-go. And part of this whole process is learning. Like one minute you're doing something and then the next minute you're doing something else, but you wouldn't have been able to get to that something else unless you went through like the step, like that whole A through Z process to get there. So I feel like for me, it's like always constantly up and down, but and I can be really hard on myself, but I'm like, you know what, all of this is an experience and you kind of have to like take it one step at a time and figure out what works for you and what doesn't. So
because technology has evolved so much and there's so many amazing cameras out there, there's editing software, there's all this stuff at your fingertips, everybody has become in a sense a professional photographer or videographer, that it, like you feel this competitiveness that if I'm posting something, it has to be the top of the top quality. But I think sometimes, as you said, like just something simple, especially if your message is connecting with people, maybe that just does just as well too, right?
Yeah.
What aspects of social media do you really like? And is there like one or two things maybe that you don't like or that you would wish would change?
So the stuff that I love about social media is it's insane seeing how creative like so many people are. And I love going on there to just see like just simple, like people will take a picture in front of a wall or a park or something, and they will transform that photo into something that you would have never even imagined. And you're just like, what the heck? Like, how did they even come up with that? So the thing that I do love about social media, and this includes like Instagram, Pinterest,
Yeah.
and other channels, but I just love how there's just so much so many ideas out there. And what I really love is that you can take one idea and another idea and combine it into something of your own and create and still be unique and create something that is different and interesting. What I don't like about social media, and this is something that I'm guilty of as well, is how obsessed we become with the numbers, the algorithm, the just, oh, my photo isn't doing well, like what is going on? And then it gets frustrating because it's things that you can't control, like the algorithm, no one understands it.
Yeah.
And it becomes this obsessive circle of, I created this, in my opinion, this amazing photo, and no one seems to like it. But then you kind of have to like step back. And first of all, if people don't like it, that's fine. Like I'm creating these things because it makes me happy. And it's, like I said, it's my creative outlet. I hope that people like it, but that's something that I constantly have to remind myself, like, hey, like you like this photo and you posted it because of XYZ reason. And the other thing too is remembering, like, the numbers don't define you. It helps with like if you're doing brand collaborations, but at the end of the day, the numbers don't define you. The quality of your image, like those are things that I try to focus on. Like, do I like how I took the photo? Do I still like how I edited it? I don't like to pay attention too much to the numbers anymore because it can be really discouraging. And
Yeah.
that's what I don't like.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I had a conversation recently with a friend because, like even with YouTube, like that's kind of a whole different platform and the algorithm's different. And like, some people say it's so saturated, and like, if you are doing a beauty video or a video on, like cooking, there's like a bazillion videos, and how does yours as a really small channel get viewed? And sometimes like I was getting obsessed with the numbers, and my friend was just like, well, if you're enjoying making the content and the videos, who cares? Like, even if 5 people watch, like if you are only doing it for the views, then that's a different story, and maybe you need to rethink. But if you're like, I love talking to people, I love creating this content, and I hope people like it, but I want to do it regardless. And as you said, like that's something that I have to take a step back and remind myself of, like, wait, why? Like, what is my own personal mission statement in starting this? Why am I doing this? Because you're right, like it can get overwhelming when you compare yourself and you fall into that comparison trap.
It's awful. It can, but then that's when you start realizing it's changing your mood, and you're like, okay, like when it starts changing your mood, that means you need to take a break, whether it's a day, a week, and then come back with a fresh perspective.
So realistically, for people that want to grow a following, and whether it's on a blog or Instagram, whatever, realistically, how much time do you put into this? And like, how much planning, editing, shooting are you doing a week? And like, what does your schedule look like that?
So I'm not going to lie. Since I joined this in 2017, it's almost like this obsession, like I have to create content. And in my mind, it's like I have to create content 5 days out of the week, which that's another lesson that I've learned that was part of your question earlier. Like, don't stress yourself out. Like, if you can't create content for 5 days, then that's okay. Wow. Nothing is going to happen. Like, you kind of get so like in your mind, like, oh, if I don't create content every day, then the numbers are going to go down. The algorithm is going to put me behind. And you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, don't stress yourself out, because creating 5 days worth of content every week can be a really, really exhausting process. But what I try to do is during the week, I will, around like Monday or Tuesday, I'll start kind of listing out like what photo ideas I have. Like if I'm doing an Indo-Western look, I'll like write down the details of my outfit, how I want to do my hair, where I want to go. And then I try to make my life as easy as possible. So sometimes if I know like a location, I'll do like 2 outfits in one location, and changing your car definitely is fun. It becomes like part of your normal routine. So
Yeah.
I would say I'd probably I try to spend like 1 or 2 hours a day on just like planning during the week. But on normal week, I guess I would say I'd spend 1 or 2 hours a day, whether it's planning my feed for the following week or my ideas, or watching tutorials, or just kind of educating myself on whatever I have on my list. And then on the weekends, I try to get it done on one day, but sometimes it's just too much, especially now with all these videos like TikTok reels and stuff. I may do like a TikTok reel. I'm calling it TikTok reel because they're basically the same thing. Yeah. I spend at least, I would say, 20 to 30 hours on top of my normal work week. It can be more if I'm like having to learn something new, like the Adobe Premiere thing.
Yeah.
That will take me time having to learn how to use it.
That's a lot. Like that's almost another full-time job. You know, it's like definitely a part-time job. What would you say you think to grow your Instagram? Do you think you need to be posting every day, twice a day? Like how have you noticed that change you're following?
Um, I I think consistency is definitely important, but I used to be putting all of this pressure on myself to post 5 days during the week, and then weekends I noticed that I feel like people are out and about that.
Yeah.
So I don't really post like thought out photos. I'll do maybe a flat lay or something that I thought was cute or whatever, and I'll post that. But I would say if you're beginning, goal is for 3 to 4 times a week, and then maybe do like a flat lay or just things that you like or whatever. But you don't need to put that pressure where you need to have a photo on your feed every single day of the week. I don't think that's going to make or break your algorithm, like your numbers or anything like that. But I do suggest definitely when you are taking your pictures, pay attention to like the lighting, the quality, like the quality of the image. I remember being so lost when I first started and not knowing like where to even begin. And I think just like I hope that they feel comfortable knowing that I'm willing to like share my insights whenever they need it, and give them whatever advice that I can possibly give.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your advice with me. And like, you know, I love looking at your content, and I think it's so awesome that you take all the time and effort to shoot it yourself, and it's really inspiring. So, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think we covered everything, but again, feel free to message me, DM me on Instagram. I'm always willing to share whatever insight that I can provide. So, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in following Tika, I have linked her social media below. Thank you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.